Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us again. Today I'm going to make schnitzel. And if you've never had schnitzel, it's wonderful. And it's a very quick way to cook pork, chicken, veal, whatever you are having for dinner. It's quicker as schnitzel. The ingredient list is very short. I'm using pork, but you can use chicken. You could use beef, whatever meat you have. And hey, if you like our videos, if you find them useful or entertaining at all, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thanks. Now let's get cooking. Well, I found a pork loin on sale and I cut it up into a roast and several chops. And these were little uneven pieces. So that makes them perfect for schnitzel. So I'm going to salt them well and then put some black pepper on them. And then I'm going to prepare them for the schnitzel. And basically what a schnitzel is, it's flattened. It's very thin. And then it's breaded with breadcrumbs and flour and egg. And it just fries up really crispy, but it retains its moisture. And this is also a good way to prepare meat that might otherwise be a little tough. Now, I like to do this next step in a big plastic bag. You could do it between two pieces of clear plastic. We're going to flatten this out, tenderize it, try to make it a uniform size. And I just find it easier with the plastic bag. I have a mallet over here, and you can use anything. You can use, a wine bottle, just about anything that you can apply a little pressure with. So I'm just going to flatten this out, and how thin you make it is pretty much up to you. The thinner you make it, the quicker it cooks. But you see, that's pretty easy. Pork is pretty easy to do. I have found some chicken that takes a little bit longer. If you have a chicken breast, you're probably going to want to butterfly it before you try this. But that's nice. Pretty thin. I'll do another one. And I don't think I mentioned, and this is pretty important, I trimmed off the fat and any of the little silver skin, and I'm using not the pronged side, but the flat side of this meat mallet. You don't want to cut into it. You just want to flatten it out. And this, removing the fat was really easy with this loin, but, if you have a fattier piece, take the time to get it off. This is, you really want to have lean meat. By the way, I have a little helper for this. While I'm working, I'm going to let you hear what I'm listening to.
Can you open your phone and give me flowers to be happy? Because you taste nothing. Just kind of.
She just informed me this whole process is very boring. So I've set up my breading station here. I have about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of flour, 2 eggs, another cup of breadcrumbs all spread out. I'm using matzo meal. And I'm doing the dry hand, wet hand method here. You can use gloves if you want to, but I'm very careful with this. And the gloves make it messier to me. So I put the schnitzel in the flour. And I may have to add more flour as I go. And I press it down because I really want the flour to adhere to the meat. And then I move it over to the egg wash. And this is really just eggs. I didn't add any water. I want them to be, I guess the word is viscous. I don't want to break them down too much. And with my wet hand, I'm going to make sure that's fully covered. And then I'll move it over to the breadcrumbs. I added just a few panko crumbs. You can use any kind of breadcrumbs you want. You can even use your homemade breadcrumbs as long as they're good and crispy. And again, I'm pressing it down. I want to make sure that it makes a cover. We want to kind of seal the meat. So I'm going to do only 2 of the 4 schnitzel at a time because my pan will only hold 2 at a time. I'll bread the last two right before I start to fry them, because I don't want them to sit too long with the breadcrumbs on it because they'll get a little mushy. So when I do this other one the same way, I will meet you at the stove. 10-inch cast iron skillet on medium-high heat. We're testing it there to make sure it's hot enough. You see how that just sizzled right away. That says it's approximately 350 to 375 degrees, and you want it to be that warm. I have just enough oil to come up a little on the sides. You see that? You know, it's not deep frying, and probably I could have had a little bit less. Let me take that out. When you put these in, be careful because they'll kind of splash because they're big and floppy. So you want to put it in moving away from you, not towards you, because it might make it splash. Once you get it in, it's going to only need to cook about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes on the first side. You want to leave it totally alone until it's time to turn it because you don't want to break your coating. So it's been about 1.5 minutes. I'm going to look, and I'm getting some browning on the bottom. Yeah, I know it's hard for you to see. We're going to flip it now. If you try to turn it too soon, the breading may crack off. And I'm sorry, this is a little awkward because I'm trying to move around the camera while not splashing oil on myself. See, we're getting some browning there. We're going to let it cook another 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and then we will flip it again to make sure that it's done all the way through. Be very careful not to overcook. The breading forms a seal, but it's very thin meat, so even with the seal, it'll dry out if you overcook. 5 to 6 minutes total, unless you left it really too thick for schnitzel. And this is a beautiful golden brown color. I'm going to take this out and drain it. I don't drain it on a paper towel. You know, I rarely drain anything on a paper towel. I have a rack over a cutting board, and if something's going to have a lot of drainage, I'll put a paper towel under the rack. I'm going to let that one have another minute, and then I'll cook my other two, and I'll show you what I've got here. Draining them on a rack like this instead of on a paper towel helps them stay crisper. While the other two are cooking, I'll make a sauce. I've got some finely chopped green onions and dill pickles here. These are my lime pickles. I'm adding a couple tablespoonsful of pickle juice to this bowl. Now with schnitzel, something tart is really, really good. And you can make gravy if you would rather. You can make any kind of sauce to go on them if you like. If you want to, you can make barbecue sauce. But I'm going to make a yogurt sauce, something like tzatziki, but not really tzatziki, because I don't have any fresh cucumbers. But I'm going to add to this Greek strained yogurt and just mix it all up together. That makes a nice sauce. It's low carb, it's low fat, it's yummy. What's not to like? Sweet and sour cabbage is good to serve with schnitzel, and German potato salad is good to serve with schnitzel. But as far as that goes, mashed potatoes and green beans are good to serve. It's just up to you. I'm going to plate this up, show you what we got. Here we go. I've plated this up with some Käsespätzle or cheese spätzle, and I'll have a video for that, by the way. I'll post a link in the info section. And you know, this is really pretty, and it goes really well with German potato salad, which I'm going to make in a couple of days, and I'll post a video for that. We'll put our little sauce here on the side, and then I'm going to cut this and take a bite. Now, it's very crunchy, and if you can see, it's still very moist inside. And I'm going to just dip into this little bit of tart sauce. A little tartness is good with it. And this is so yummy. I love pork chops, fixed almost any way, but this is one of my favorite ways to fix pork chop. And it's also a great way to fix chicken for kids. Now see that? About the thickness that I have there is how we like it. Any thinner than that, and it gets a little dried out. But this is not dried out. This is very moist and very tender and very yummy, and something you can do pretty easily. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Don't forget, subscribe. See you again tomorrow.